How about now? Hey y'all, today we are going to talk. Oh, I can't reach that far. Today we're going to talk about breaking down a new lake, how we approach it, what we do, and what kind of baits we use when we're approaching those lakes. As we're going along, you can always ask questions. If you are curious about the conversations that are happening on the chats, you can always swipe left when it comes out on the, if you're rewatching it, you'll see two dots in the comment section, and you'll see the current comments. You just swipe it to the side, and the other dot, if you look at the top right, and that'll show you the current chats, in case you did not know. We are good to go. We got some people on here. Last week, we'll do a little bit of that while people get logged on here. Last week, Brian went to Hawaii, and I went to McClure. That video is live right now. And then I also went to Eastman, and then I went to Delta after that. So I had a 3-day weekend of all fishing.
I had multiple days looking for fish.
You can hear us loud and clear. I appreciate that. It's good to get a voice confirmation to make sure the microphones are working. How do you go to Hawaii and not fish?
Bro, there was a time that I was sitting on the back porch of the resort, and there was a guy down on the bank with a line in the water, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty sure I'd be buying a fishing license and a rod somewhere.
I did find a lure.
To be surrounded by water.
I did find a lure snorkeling.
Nice.
Yeah, I did find it.
Did it have at least a little bit of string so you could act like you were fishing?
No. No, but I definitely saw some fish. I saw some fish that I definitely would have liked to catch, but man, it was family trip to Hawaii.
Yep.
You got to do that kind of stuff every once in a while.
Yeah, see, that's why I just have my family trips and we go fishing.
Yeah,
but yeah, Hawaii chance. I mean, I haven't been, so but I don't blame you on that one.
And I've never been either, but like the opportunity that was set in front of me, like it was almost a slam dunk. I had to go.
Yeah, for sure. I got you.
What's going on, Marlon?
I gotta adjust the camera.
You gotta adjust it.
Yeah, you can't see anything on the table.
We got a lot of stuff on the table.
There's all sorts of stuff on the table. Just super professional today.
You guys
obviously
know what this is.
It's a beautiful bait. I just talked about that at McClure.
You did.
Yeah.
I know. I watched the video on my way over here.
Money, especially for the foothill lakes.
Hey, they're not only are they money that they're gonna catch fish, but they're legit money.
Yeah,
to buy them.
$20, $25 if you buy it at the wrong place. What's happening One Hand Fishing? What's happening Marlin? What's happening Eric? And D10 Dozer Man. So let's get into it. Yeah. So today's topic is breaking down a new lake. Part of this may or may not have been inspired by the fact that I just fished McClure for the first time ever, and then back that up with fishing Eastman for the first time ever. They're both a 3-hour drive from where I live, so I don't go down to there very much. If you guys watch McClure, you know I stayed with my buddy Steven, and he was gracious enough to be hospitality, and I kind of self-invited myself. So he kind of had a long stand invite, but as far as the date, I kind of picked the date. So I definitely appreciate him and his wife.
Did you eat good?
I did eat good. There was a chicken burger. I don't know what it is. It was a good sandwich. It had lemon aioli, which doesn't sound right, but it actually tastes good.
That's good.
Matlock's check-in. 5 miles ahead. What's happening? And then Passion Bassin. Appreciate that, Passion Bassin. saying enjoying the content, and hit the like button and subscribe. What else we got? Oh, little doves. Anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. Okay, so lakes. When I first pull onto a lake, what's happening, Getsy? My first thing that I'm gonna do when I crack onto a lake is I'm gonna look at water temperature. I'm gonna look at water clarity. And then I'm gonna look at, like, is this like a deep lake, a shallow lake? What kind of lake is this? Like, what is the structure that are in my eyes that I can see out? For instance, McClure reminded me a lot of those foothill lakes. So I kind of was like, okay, well, let's start heading towards something that you would do at Malone's, something you'd do at Pedro's, something that you do in those other lakes. And you can tag into all that stuff and play off of that stuff by knowing what your what it looks similar to, what kind of area you're in.
Let me jump off to the start. Like, I'm gonna backtrack a little bit before I even hit the lake. One of the things that I'm gonna do, and it's something that I do even with lakes that I fish normally, is I'm gonna actually get on YouTube. Be honest with you guys, I'm gonna look at that body of water in that time frame. What's going on? If anybody's putting out a video, not to say that I'm taking their spots, right? But what are they throwing, and what type of structure are they throwing at?
Yeah.
Right? Those are things that I'm going to look at. So, for example, like this channel, right? Like, I know for a fact that this channel, when we fish a body of water, we're putting out the video that week,
Yeah.
right? Like, those are channels that I'm going to follow. Those are channels that I'm going to look at around here, right? Like, and then utilize that information and then do my own thing to it. I'll never chase somebody else's bite, but I'm going to take that information that they have or that they're providing us on that YouTube channel and utilize it, right? Into my own style. Because that will help you figure out the fish or figure out something that you don't know about or haven't been paying attention to on a body of water that you already fish.
So a lot of the times when I'm watching that YouTube stuff, main things I'm pulling out of it: how active were the fish, how deep were the fish, and like how big are the fish, basically. Like, what's your ballpark? What do you what's your targets? What you're heading at?
And then just throw this all day.
Yeah, throw big baits all day.
Throw that all day.
So for instance, I just went to McClure. I didn't do any research on McClure, but Steven had already been there. But like when I went to Oroville, I watched Bass Union's videos, and I was able to see like what kind of tactics he was using, right? So he's throwing a finesse jig, throwing sometimes a full-size jig. He's throwing drop shot, he's throwing A-rig, he's throwing these things. Now I know when I go there, that is something that has worked in the past. That's something I can pick up to try and break down that lake.
Correct.
Like the stuff on that front side before you even show up. That way you show up with the right, or I shouldn't say the right tackle, but a good amount of what tackle you're going to need. So
there's sometimes though you still, I'll end up bringing more tackle than what I probably need to, or like there's something that I get there and I'm looking at the fish and I'm like, God, why didn't I bring my spoons? Right? Like, to break it down, like there's sometimes I just pack too much and I'm like, oh, great news, I'm using the drop shot.
Yeah.
All day. I brought all this stuff. The boat's slow, and all I needed was a drop shot. And sorry, Steve.
Yeah. So that's we'll get into all that.
Yeah.
We'll get into all that. We'll get into how we actually break down where to get the bites or how to. So basically, YouTube research in the beginning. The other thing
Correct.
is you can use Google Earth.
Yes.
If you download Google Earth,
Pro.
the Pro, you can back up time to be able to look at the water down low. That's the one great thing about California is we're really good at running the water down low in most of our lakes. And you can look at the structure and make waypoints, put them on your graph before you even show up to it the first time at all. So you can kind of figure out what kind of ballpark of stuff. And now, when you get into something and you say, oh, well, I'm catching them at rock 20 feet deep on a point. Now I know where else I can go that might have it in 20 foot, but you at least know where the rock is, and it'll be on a point, and then now you just have to go see if it's really at 20 foot or not.
Right.
So that's all the research you go before there.
I'm telling you, just some of that research has paid off in tournaments.
I will say the Oroville, I had never been to Oroville before the time that we fished there. I had Friday on the water, Saturday I figured it out, Sunday I got the bites. Being able to break it down in 3 days by taking a simple method, which we'll get into here in a second, was the only reason why I was able to figure out how to get those bites. And then I just applied basically that same exact process to McClure and to Eastman, and ended up getting bites. Ended up getting, I think for the lake, decent bites. I'm not saying they're giant bites, but they're at least decent bites in there from doing that. So I guess we'll get into it.
Yeah.
Anything else you do before you hit the water? Besides grab snacks?
Well, I do like me some snacks.
Always the gas station snack stop.
Yeah.
Um,
Some snacks. But yes, doing the YouTube research prior to watching some of that kind of stuff. I even look at their YouTube sometimes just to catch up with what's going on. Right.
Yeah.
But figuring out that lake, looking at it, and then getting on it.
And a lot of times you don't know what they're fishing specifically. You just kind of like, you don't know. You don't know what the lake looks like to know, oh, they're at such and such spot. You can use that in an actual lake that you actually do know, but when it's a lake you don't know, you can't. So in the beginning, I'm going to start, depending on the time of the year, I'm probably going to start on the most prominent main feature of that lake.
Right.
Whether that's a whole lake where it's only got one hump on it, I'm going to go to that hump. If it's got one major point off of it, I'm going to go to that major point. I'm going to go to the most obvious main lake structure that there is. I'm not going to run up any creeks or anything like that, just to see what kind of mood they're in, what they're going for, what they're doing. So basically, we'll just take it back to McClure. So I rolled into an offshore hump that's off of Main Lake, right near the dam. You can see the dam from it. The whole point of that is I just want something that's the biggest draw from the biggest area. I threw a rig across that, wasn't getting anything to go, and then I could see solo cruisers that were on that hump, and I was able to pick up, actually it was a different color, I was able to pick up the Morning Dawn, throw that on there, get reaction from them, and then also I could see how many didn't react.
Yeah.
So now I kind of get a ballpark of what depth I see, and then I see what reacts to this. More than likely, the rest of it was trout that didn't react to it. So now I can eliminate those at other areas. Then I proceed to another rock point, and you go to that other rock point, and then you take that same information that you took, and you apply it to the next spot. Yeah. So now I know I need to look between this depth and this depth, which ends up being like 20 to 25 or something like that, and then down to 30. Now I'm looking in that area. Well, then as I go down the bank, my buddy ends up sticking a fish on jerkbait up shallow, but it's small. And then I'm like looking around, and I can see there's a bunch of small fish up shallow, but I never see any big fish with them dancing with the jerkbait. So all you're doing is you're putting together the pieces, and you're trying to absorb as much as you can from your environment. as you can. If you don't have forward scan, you can side scan things. You can just tried and true pick up an A-rig and throw it. If you're getting short struck up shallow, could be dinks. They could just not be eating it that day. You can kind of tell if you've been throwing it enough. You can feel that's on there. The other great search baits are these bad boys right here, glide baits. They're really good at getting fish to come up and look at it, even if they don't eat it.
And sometimes if you're pre-fishing for a tournament, you don't want them to eat it, right?
Yeah.
You just want to be able to see what is in the body of water, where you're fishing, what is in the area, right? Like you don't want to sore lip them. You just want to be able to be like, okay,
Yeah,
that's living here, that's living there.
If I'm the
This is
day
living
before
here.
a tournament on a Friday, I will purposely throw an A-rig, especially if they're not eating it, just because they'll rise up off the bottom and look at it.
Yeah. And
So I can look to see a general idea how big the fish is and a general idea of where they're at along that.
and then
So
this
you're basically using search baits.
and then like this S waiver, this we call it the banana, but this is a light trout, 168 without a tail.
Yeah,
guy.
tails in the box.
But this bait right here, there's some lakes that they just chew this thing. Like
Yeah.
it is
Certain
on-
times of the year.
On certain times of year, they chew this color. This is a great color though, to get their attention, to get them up out of where they're at, and just to see. Like I'll change my sunglasses to where I got a lighter color, to where I can see in the water, and I'll throw that just to where I can see what is in that area,
Yeah.
just to see if I can pull them up.
Like we're saying, I will purposely throw this color knowing that it's not the right time of the year and they're not going to eat it, because we also know that this is the best bait out of all the colors they make, that they will come up and stare at it and follow it and watch it.
Yeah.
So this is the bait, or this is the color that definitely intrigues them. They just don't always eat it besides certain times of the year,
Yeah.
which on each lake is a little bit different.
Yes.
If you do have a day that they are eating this color, you can pull out a different color that's the wrong one and do the same thing. Even if they are eating this color, you can change to this, and now they'll come up and look at it because it's the wrong color, and they won't eat it.
Right.
And you could change to a warden color or any of the other colors.
Matlock says for Snickety Snacks for the boat, definitely crispy crunchy chicken. And if you guys don't know that in our area there is one in Sassoon, it's gas station chicken, crispy crunchy chicken. There's one in Winters on your way to Berryessa, and now also there's one in the Oaks at the Chevron.
Yeah,
Gas station.
Clear Lake Oaks,
Clear Lake
and
Oaks.
then there's one in Oakley. Oh, there's one in Oakley at the Chevron gas station across from McDonald's.
Yeah, if you guys have
So-
not tried
Or actually,
crispy
the
crunchy
other one?
chicken from the gas station, we call it gas station chicken.
Yeah.
Definitely give it a go. We
Yeah.
got a couple comments in there about other people saying, crispy crunchy chicken.
people we've converted
It-
over to.
Yeah, it is good hot. It is good cold. You could get it, buy it, and just put it in the boat for later on.
They just
And-
don't make it early enough for the average day.
Yeah. But
Sadly
it
enough.
is. I'll buy it and have it for the next day.
Yeah.
Like we have a Clear Lake tournament coming up. I might buy a box and just put it in the boat for the day.
Fat kid status is.
Oh, bro, it's so good.
All right, so the
Squirrel.
so let's say we're just out fun fishing, we're not tournament fishing, right?
Yeah.
So then we picked up the A-rig, we picked up the glide bait, we figured out where they are pulling off of. We figured out that on that day, we'll use McClure for an example. On that day, they're in 20 to 25 foot of water, solo rock clumps. Like you actually, if it's a field of rock, they're not playing. If it's solo rock clumps, they'll play. Now, I'm gonna throw baits at it. What can I throw at it? So one of the best things that I use for a search to find out what's down there is actually this bad boy right here, or this one, either the Sorry Steve or the drop shot. And the reason why is, I guess it kind of depends on how they're relating to the structure.
Yeah.
But as it's falling, I can see fish come up and look at it. So A, now I'm confirming that they are active eating fish. And B, it's something that's subtle that falls into their area that's not going to scare them away. You can throw this A-rig over the top of them and they'll come up and look at it and they'll school behind it and nip it. But if they aren't eating it, then you need to throw something slow that gets down in there. So when you pick up that drop shot and you fire it in there, don't be aggressive with it, be subtle with it.
Yeah.
If those fish are cruising around, if they're just be subtle, pick up a fish, and then start building it from there. All this is just one step at a time.
I'm trying to figure them out.
Trying to figure them out. Oroville. Trying to break down Oroville for the first time. I basically figured out that it was rock points. This was on Friday. I figured out that it was rock points or like the shade line where you can't see the dirt anymore.
Yeah.
You throw right to that shade line and you dead stick a drop shot or whatever falls slow. It just needed to fall slow. The Bass Union Darter Head was the other thing. I think he was using a spider grub.
Yeah.
So, I mean, really what you were looking for is that slow fall. And that, again, is like what you would find with throwing that drop shot.
We did
a lighter weight.
on that lake, different things that we did, like he was throwing the Bass Union Darter Head. I was throwing a spider grub, getting chewed. Like, I went through a lot of spider grubs. It was a very good time.
Yeah.
And my partner was throwing a weightless Cinco and just dead sticking it, letting it flutter down. And same thing, complete different baits, same type bites.
Same fish, same bites. You don't have to have the right bait.
Right.
Everyone's saying you need to have this exact bait with this exact flake. Most of the time, you would find that same bite with a different bait most of the time.
Different areas on that lake. Like,
yeah,
those are things that actually help and work, right?
and that'll actually. So if I'm fun fishing, if I start in an area of a lake, I'm going to probably stay in that area of a lake. Like, so what I'm going to use as an example, let's say you're breaking down Berryessa for the first time. You have the Narrows, you have Main Lake, and then you have like up north, like up in like Puda Creek, Pope Creek, all those areas. All three of those areas fish different. So if I go to Puda Creek and I learn something, I learned that I need to throw this glide bait, and then I turn around and I take this glide bait and I drive all the way to the Narrows, it may not work. If I go to Main Lake, it might work, but then you go back to Puda Creek and it starts working again. Or vice versa, you're going to throw a jerkbait and you're in the Narrows and it's lighting them up. Now you go to Main Lake and you stop getting bit, but lo and behold, you go back to the Narrows and you pick up that jerkbait and it's getting bit again. So you'll learn that there's certain areas that will fish similar to each other.
Yeah.
So I try to stay in a specific area. When I broke down Oroville, I purposely stuck to one arm, and I only picked that arm because it just had a lot of pretty stuff in it. Not that everywhere didn't have pretty stuff in it, but it had a little bit of everything that I would want to fish. So there's no point in going all the rest of the arms.
As I burned through two tanks of gas.
He might have flown around a lot.
But I did find largemouth on Oroville.
Yeah, I did not find largemouth.
I did find them, and it didn't pay off.
I'm pretty sure I had one on.
That Evoke
that was
2.0 is that hologram red color. It's hard to get in the 2.0. But yes, that is the color that I was using. Mine has a crack in it.
Yeah, he's pretty soon he's gonna only bring back half a fish.
Yeah, half of.
He's gonna set the hook and it's gonna come in messed up.
And the only reason I know that it's got a half is when we're doing the videos and I'm like playing with it and I'm squeezing it and I'm like, why is there water leaking out of this thing?
Yeah. probably hit
That was a
once,
Delta
once.
find, by the way.
Yeah.
Also, great bait. If you guys don't know, I actually really enjoy it. It's like a -1.
Like this is a Clear Lake find.
Yeah, it's like a -1 where it only goes so deep, and it's got a really wide wobble.
Yeah.
It works really good for that. But
And
sorry.
Angel says sauerkraut's a crowd favorite with a schnapps chaser.
I'm in. I'm in 100%.
Which schnapps?
Yeah. What do we?
Peppermint.
Hopefully
Is
it's not peppermint schnapps.
Oh come on! You don't like peppermint schnapps?
No, Goldschlager, man. It didn't even.
Feels like-
I'm old. Like
feels like a-
Goldschlager was a thing.
Feels like a bad experience, maybe.
Maybe been there, done that.
Um.
And Brooke says, gas station chicken for the win, right? Like,
Yeah.
absolutely. That is actually on our list for me and my family. Like, hey, what do you guys want for dinner? And we're like, hey, let's go to the list. Gas station chicken is on the list, and it doesn't say crispy crunchy chicken. It says gas station chicken.
Yeah. Best part.
Best part.
Is there anything you do different in breaking down water?
So, before I had forward scan, like, for example, and I know we've done breakdowns on the lake for Rollins Lake, but it doesn't fluctuate very much. So it was really hard to use like Google Earth Pro to try to figure it out. But it was only a 900 square acre lake. So one of the days, me and my dad went up there and we straight just side scanned the whole lake. Like that was our plan. We drove the whole lake side scanning, marking things that we wanted to look at and fish. Did the whole lake and then went back to those spots and checked them out. Right? Those are ways to do it. If you can't, break it down prior to, right?
Yeah.
Luckily, you know, there's people
in
like
a 900 acre lake, it takes you, if you were to idle the entire thing, it's probably 5 hours of idling, 4 or 5 hours of idling.
as long as you can.
As long as you aren't stopping to fish. If you do stop to fish, it's a full day. If you're stopping to play with things.
Peach schnapps. I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm in.
So that side scan is probably your best tool. If I'm breaking down a lake, I'm not. The only time I'm throwing forward scan realistically or dealing with forward scan is just to see fish reactive.
Yeah.
On when I actually locate fish. But as far as locating them, I can actually see fish on structure better with side scan than I can with forward scan.
And
So I will purposely idle something and side scan it because it'll show me way more. I can see fish on the bottom. I can see all that. And I'm just running Lowrance on 455. I'm not even running Hummingbird on Mega Live or Mega Side Scan or whatever they call that thing.
Elau, I do agree with what you said. Schlager was definitely better than Aftershock.
Yeah.
100%.
Y'all
And
are-
later
I'll
on,
drink my
like,
beer.
hit me up, you know, at a meeting or outing, and I'll tell you some secrets about Schlager.
Yeah.
What you can do with it.
Yeah. Sidetracking me.
Sorry.
Putting me in
Sidebar.
we're too worried about food and drinks.
Well,
So baits that, so let's say you get fish located, you get them located on side scan, you figure all that out. Okay, one of the baits that I'm gonna throw is jerk bait,
yeah, probably
different
Pro
colors, Pro Blue also.
I'll tell you the 3 colors.
And that a lot of that is because it's gonna raise the fish up off the bottom. Whether they eat it or not, it'll still raise them off the bottom.
The 3 colors that maybe 4 colors, I'm gonna be throwing Pro Blue, Tennessee Shad, the Threadfin, right? I love that Threadfin color, especially at Clear Lake, and that Cherry Spawn. Those are the colors that are going to be the ones that are going to get cycled through, depending on the color of the water, depending on what the baits look like if you actually see bait. But those are the colors that I'm going to cycle through. I will tell you, the Pro Blue and the Cherry Spawn for those foothill lakes are money. Like, I don't care if you're fishing Comanche, if you're fishing Don Pedro, probably McClure, right? The cherry spawn, the Pro Blue, and those 110+1 juniors.
Yeah. Which they now make cherry spawn in the +1 regular. They're just really hard to get a hold of, but they are part of the normal color scheme where they're going to carry it consistently. They're just, as soon as they come in, they're sold out.
Yeah.
I haven't even got a hold of any of them yet.
They definitely are money. But that A-rig, that jerk bait, the glide bait finding fish, just to find them, and then you get stuck, you get going back to that drop shot because it's your confidence bait, right? Like, and finding out what is actually down there.
So what I'm also going to pay attention to when all of that is, I'm going to pay attention to just life in general.
What's going on there?
Is there trees submerged? Is there bait flickering on the surface? Is there
Bait getting chased?
Is there birds in the area? What kind of birds are in the area? How active are the birds in the area?
Let me stop you on that, right? Like, while you're driving a lake and it's a new lake, and you're driving along, and you see just a ton of birds, is that going to be like a red flag? Or are you going to be like, hey, let's slow down, let's look at this?
If it's out in the abyss over 80 foot of water, I'm going to be like, oh, okay. And just know what area they're in. More than likely, they're not going to be far from bait or something that they're eating. They don't tend to eat crawdads. But that's probably a decent area of the lake to start to pick off structure.
Say if you're leaving Berryessa and you're going out of Capel, and you're going through until you get to the keyhole, right, where it's in between Steel Park and Spanish Flats, right, that keyhole that you get out to the main lake, and you see just a ton of birds in there. Would that be like a red flag to you? Like, hey, maybe we should...
Well, the average person launches at a launch ramp and drives to a different launch ramp area. You ever pay attention to that?
Yeah.
So when people launch their boat, they always drive away from the ramp that they're at. But what's happening is they actually drive closer to another ramp, and they fish close to another ramp. But a lot of people don't consider the ramp you just left from. And some people take advantage of that. I know people who have fished Sonoma tournaments and won the tournament and never fired a big motor up. I have been co-angler of a Delta tournament where we never fired the big motor up. There are definitely times where you need to stop trying to go find fish and just listen to the birds being in the area and all the wildlife that we're talking about.
Like what I'm saying is, in seeing that and staying within that, at that time was a 5 mile an hour zone and throw A-rigs all day.
Yeah. But other times,
while there's snow,
the average person will automatically discharge that area. They don't even try to.
So are you telling me that in that aspect, what you're talking about, a kayak would be better because they can't run to another area?
Kayaks would have the advantage because they can't, but then if that area had, like, that's why they launch from different places. So, I'm guessing that's you.
Yes. Yes, I do.
So if you have launches from different places,
5 miles ahead.
Everyone's launch is that.
I actually work with that person.
Yeah, I figured.
Yeah.
Sorry, reading comments, getting sidetracked.
Yeah.
He might be
frozen.
He might be a couple of beers deep.
I might be a couple.
That's why he keeps going back to food and drinks.
Yeah, I did have some.
Yeah.
A couple beers and some boom boom shrimp.
Yeah. Snickety snack.
Snickety snack.
Oh my goodness, I almost forgot. Thank you, Robert Linson. Your friend used to fish the Reapers tournament on Berryessa. Our Reapers tournament is November 19th, 2024 is our open tournament.
November 19th.
Isn't it the 19th?
No, it's the 23rd of
No,
November. It's the first. It's the Saturday.
Last year was the 19th. It's the Saturday before Thanksgiving.
Hey, I'm the guy that's been drinking. Hey, it's the 23rd, the Saturday before Thanksgiving. We have all the permits. It is it's going. It's on.
Yeah.
Go to our website, bassreapers.org, and print out the form.
Yeah.
And send it in. And yes, we are gonna have it. We're paying back 85%.
Just higher than anyone else. Yeah. Everyone is 80% payout. We are 85% payout.
And 100% big fish payout. So
yeah.
we're not doing it for the money. We are doing it to have a good tournament.
Yeah.
Right?
And there will be a raffle. That's kind of where our profits are made, is in the raffle side. Yeah. So bring cash. It's $1 a ticket. And there should be some good prizes.
Definitely some
so far, I've already seen some good prizes that are coming in. As we get closer, we'll give out the details on that one. But yeah, November 23rd.
November 23rd. Look, it's in the
Saturday
comments.
before Thanksgiving.
It's in the comments.
Eli helped us out with that one,
Yeah.
or helped me out, I should say.
Yeah.
It's the open tournament at Berryessa out of Puda Creek, and that's bassreapers.org. So, cool. Crappie Closet will be there, and he's going to give us a donation also. So, thank you, Crappie Closet. Marlon, that is.
I missed you, Marlon, at our meeting last night. I thought you were going to come by.
Yeah, I didn't. I messaged him on comments, but I didn't answer I missed it on YouTube or Instagram. I've been a little behind on Instagram, sadly. That dang work thing is getting into me right now.
Yeah, legit. I just got off at 5.
Yeah.
I'm doing good. I'm 2 beers in. Got off at 5. YouTube live. Let's go. Let's do this.
Other search baits. Buzzbait. Actually, let's talk Delta, because Delta's different. Speaking of buzzbait. So, if you haven't been to Delta in a while, or you've never been to Delta before, that is a true place that is a start where you launch. There's no bad answers in that. You could start with your launch, and then also we're on Facebook and Instagram for its Bass Reapers, Fairfield Sassoon Bass Reapers, if you're looking at that. One of the search baits in the summer is going to be a double buzzbait, single buzzbait. It's a little hard to throw A-rig, but you can throw A-rig on the outside lead line.
Chatterbait, whopper plopper, choppo.
Yep. You're going to throw the standard ones that go through there, and the whole point of that is to cover water and see where the bites come from. The other ones you got is your Cinco and stuff like that. So you're basically, at that point, you're looking at weeds, tules, rocks, and woods, and drop-offs and depth, right? So you got depth.
Current.
And then you got
current. So many
you
things to throw in there.
You got 6 factors, major factors. There's a lot of little ones to that, right? You got overhead cover, blah, blah, blah. We'll tag that in with vegetation, weeds.
Right.
Most of the time, there's 3 of those together, that if you find those 3 together, that's where the fish are, or tend to be.
Correct.
For that time. So now you're just looking for those 3 combinations, or sometimes it's just one combination. You're looking for, or 2, I should say. It's like depth with weeds. A lot of the times, something is nearby, whether there is or isn't tules. If there's rock or tules, can make a difference. So like when I fished Delta on Monday, rock with solo weed clumps. Like if there's a weed clump that's not connected to the rest of them, and you're in between the rock and that weed clump, that's where the bites came from. If you found a solid weed line, you'd get bites, little bites, but the keeper bites were in that area.
Right.
If you go to tules, couldn't get bit in tules. With that said, never threw Cinco, never threw drop shot. Neither me or Braden that I fished with through either one of those. We didn't slow it down. Was there a megalodon bag sitting in the tules? Maybe, who knows. But as far as breaking down the water, we just ran and kept covering that tried other areas, moved in there, went up into Sycamore even, and started punching, flipping around in there, and ended up coming back out main channel. Is probably like the more stuff with more current, which makes sense for the summer.
Yeah, I feel like going up in those dead end sloughs in the summertime, that water doesn't. You're not getting as much movement to where it could cool down for them as well.
That water is slowly cooling on all lakes, pretty much that I've been to. That water is starting to cool down now. Those with the even with these warm days, those overnights are cold enough, and then the winds picked up. That will cut all that stuff back. So it's starting to go. I will say that out of all the lakes that I have fished in the last couple of weeks, which is Berryessa, Malones, or not, yeah, Berryessa, Malones, McClure, Eastman, and Delta, all 5 of them are starting that late summer, early fall transition. They're all starting to move or starting to change and relate more to bait than they were. And that's in all the locations. Some are farther than others. Berryessa is kind of on pace. The rest of this year, they've kind of been, I'd say, ahead of pace. Like where they like spawned a little earlier, they transitioned a little earlier. They're kind of right where they usually are about this time. Malones, I don't fish Malones enough to know on that. And then Delta is, they're starting to, that's where you see a lot more of these guys punching. And it's that time of the season where that punch really comes on strong.
I'm
Those
ready
weeds,
for that.
those
I
weeds
love punching.
stay warm overnight. Like there's a lot of good reasons for them to
There's
be
shade. It's what was it, like 106 today?
Yeah, it's shade when it gets hot, and
Right,
there's warmth at night. Getsy's back.
Hi, Getsy.
Um,
That's my partner for next tournament, by the way. I just want you to know that.
oh, so I shouldn't be talking about Delta? I don't want to give
we're
up
good.
too much information.
No, we're good. We're not even going to pre-fish. We're going to just go at it. We're going to go hunting instead.
Right?
Right.
Well, that's so to kick it back to the actual topic. I want to get on a forward facing sonar rant so bad because of this stuff, but I don't want to.
It will. Forward-facing sonar is not the end-all. You're not.
It is not.
You are not going to get forward-facing sonar and be like, I'm catching all these fish.
Yeah.
Like, it is not a thing. Now, does it help you speed up your transition? 100% when you're figuring them out,
Take
right?
it out of that.
But it is not going to help you catch fish. It might actually, it's probably going to help you just figure out that you're throwing a bunch of baits at a bunch of fish that you are not catching, and they really don't care about what you are doing in your life or while you're fishing. Right?
So this thing right here, which is a jig head minnow, I have 5, 6, 8. I have probably almost 10 trips of solo throwing this dang thing and a bunch of different baits, trying to get bit on it. It is not as easy as everyone makes it seem. I could probably count all of my fish that I've caught off this stupid little jig head minnow on 2 hands. I don't even think I could fill up the second hand. I'm probably only at like 8. That's the part I don't understand about. I think a lot of people in this forward-facing debate, either they know how hard it is and they're still getting their butt beat by it, and that's why they're upset about it, or they're just too stubborn to try it. I'm not 100% sure what the main beef with all of it is, what the root cause of all of it is. I could just tell you that this thing right here is not the end all be all. I have so many fish that will scream off the bottom at this thing and get up next to it and just back off. And when I say scream, I'm talking like 5+s shooting off the bottom enough where I swear you can see bubble trail coming up behind them. And as soon as they get up to it, they just stop and follow it. And they will not eat that thing.
It is a big crappie bait, by the way.
It is a big crappie bait, and I will say that
Crappie closet baits right here.
I will go crappie fishing and forward scan any day because that is actually easier.
Crappie closet.
Because they're usually schooled, and the best time that you want, the best chance of getting a bite is if they're schooling, and well, crappie school a lot.
Yeah.
So that's
100%.
the most enjoyment for that, and that's actually I've caught more crappie. Now that I think about it, I've caught more crappie in the couple of days that I've done it, throwing different baits, the crappie closet baits, or the Bobby Garlands, and or jerk baits.
Jerk baits.
Scoping. I've
Very
scoped more
fun.
crappie than doing this, and I have significantly more dedicated days using this dang thing in numerous different colors, numerous different profiles.
That
I don't
at
understand.
Clear Lake, early spring, crappie.
Yeah.
All day, every day. Great times.
For sure. And then don't be afraid of bright colors also for crappie.
Yeah.
This is the juniors, right?
Yeah.
So it's small enough. The crappie are up to 3 pounds plus.
Yeah.
At Clear Lake, they're not afraid of this bait at all. In fact, they'll be completely choked inside there. I just don't understand why they... I do understand it. I just wish I didn't understand it, I guess I should say.
Breaking down water though.
But breaking down water using forward scan, realistically, you can tell what structures those fish relate to.
And how big they are. Without catching them, how big the fish are in that area.
Even if you can't catch them.
Yeah.
At Eastman, I found an area with multiple, more than likely double digits. And they didn't give a crap with anything I threw at them.
They're all catfish.
They were not catfish. They were definitely bass. Because when they get that big, you can
I
tell.
just like telling you that they're catfish.
Yeah, when they get that big, you can tell if they're catfish or not. And I do want to go back to that lake because it's got some giants in it.
Pike minnow? Were they pike minnow?
No. Eastman is all largemouth and trout.
Oh.
So, yeah, largemouth trout, bluegill, sunfish, stuff like that. Rage. What else we got? You got anything else?
It's a lot. Like breaking down a lake, you know, sometimes I've got people that like the Delta talk about, they just drive around until they see clean grass, right? They're looking for that grass, especially like right now in the Delta where they're doing a lot of spraying. That
if you haven't checked areas on the Delta that had nasty grass 2 months ago, check it again.
yeah.
I went into an area that was completely nasty, black, like hair, that hair stuff. Like you can't even fish because whatever touches your lure sticks to it, that black hair stuff. And I went back to it and it had pretty much green. It wasn't like that vibrant green, but it had green grass, so it's been growing back.
Just talking about like the Delta, like there's a lot of it that to pre-fish. I'm not even saying you need to go pre-fish, but you almost need to just go out there and see what has been sprayed or pellets dropped lately, right? Like stuff that you know that you're like, this is my spots. I'm gonna go here, here, and here. It's a good idea just to go out there just to see if they've been there, right? Of what they've done to that area, because I've gotten a lot of stuff this year of going into those places and being like, why is those weeds yellow now?
So if you pull into an area and you see the hyacinth or the pennywort and you see a yellow tinge to it,
yeah,
that's usually what I have found is that indicator that they're on their way. They've been sprayed or more than likely have been sprayed. They're not doing healthy. Like I said, I went into an area that was basically barren before, and now it's got hyacinth on there with flowers on top of it. Flowers, if you see flowers on them, that
It's
means
healthy.
it is really, really healthy, because things don't flower unless they're healthy. Um, you just gotta watch to see if those flowers are withering, or if they turn yellow because, well, tomorrow they may spray it. So you
Yeah.
never know. It's, I will say, frustrating when you're in a tournament and you
Yes.
pre-fish the weekend before, and then you get out there and everything's yellow, and you're like, cool, now it's plan B, plan C, and usually if they get one area, they get the whole area, not just your spot that you want to go to.
Correct.
So you end up picking up and going to entirely different areas. But on the good note, there's areas that are green again that weren't a couple months ago when I was fishing in July. Were barren wasteland, and now it has weeds again. So don't be afraid to try that again for Delta. Shoot, what was the other thing I was going to say?
I don't know what you're gonna say.
Yeah, telepathically can't remember.
Is there a body of water that you want me to go work on? Say this weekend. He's on call.
Yeah, he's solo, or he's
Solo
fishing with
bowler.
somebody, but he doesn't have anywhere to go. I will say right now the best lake. If I were to pick any lake to go to, no tournament indicated, it's going to be Berryessa.
Yeah.
Berryessa right now is doing really, really well. End of day, morning, even midday, from what I'm understanding, there's people getting
It
bit
was
midday.
midday for us.
You just need to look a little deeper. I'll give you that hint. Just don't beat the bank. Back up off the bank a little bit. Fish through that, and Berryessa's doing really good right now. Like where
Yeah,
you're
It
catching,
is healthy.
you're catching 3+s like every trip.
Yeah.
Not saying every fish, but
It's
every
healthy.
trip.
It's healthy.
So it's doing really, really well. If I were to pick one lake to go play around with right now, it's going to be Berryessa. McClure and like a lot of those other lakes are definitely like like the first 2 hour window. Malone's was that way. The
Yeah.
first hour, the first 2 hours, or the back half of the day, they seem to be more towards less midday, less of the others. But Berryessa right now, you can get bit throughout the whole day. It is a grind through the middle of the day, but you can still get bit, and they're
Yeah.
still active. And we may or may not have seen fish blowing up on the surface, chasing bait, and watched a guy catch them on top water.
Yeah.
Uh,
Right next to us.
We weren't. We were out a little deeper. Couldn't throw on top of him, but I was still enjoying watching him do it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. But breaking down the lake, picking those areas, finding those bigger fish. If you're fishing a tournament, is a key thing because the fish swim with basically the same size. So if you're in a spot and you're catching a lot of littler fish, you need to change, right?
So I got one last tip before we kick out. When it comes to breaking down a lake, every time I get bit, I'm gonna make a way mark. And I have a special little one that's a fork and a spoon,
Yeah.
and that means I got bit there. So what'll happen is if you use that with your topo, your topography map, you can actually go back and look at where you got bit, and you'll pick out patterns. Like, hey, look, there's a deep point, but there was a flat nearby. And every time I got bit, there was a deep point with a flat nearby. And you go through those things and making those way marks, and then you can get a little more fancy than that. And every time you caught a fish over, let's say Malone's, right? The average fish is 1 to 2 pounds. If I catch a fish over 3 pounds, I'm gonna make a different mark that says this was a 3-pounder. So now, as I'm going across it, every time I catch anything over 3, I make a different mark, and now I can start to look at that same thing. Oh, the 3-pounders were on that point with the flat next to it.
Yeah.
And you can use those things, and that's your own data that comes back to you, and you can look at it on a grand scale at the end of the day. You could do that with Delta, you could do that with Clear Lake, you could do that with any of that stuff. So it helps break down, helps simplify it at the end of the day when it comes to it.
And I use that same method, and we've talked about it before with my my meat boat, right? Like my limo well. When I go out to San Francisco Bay and halibut fish, when we catch fish, I mark, because you're drifting.
As soon as we hook up, you mark.
Mark. And
Whether
every
that
year
fish comes in or not.
And every year I change what my mark is for that area. So now I have years of right here, this pattern. If I do this drift, I catch fish.
Yeah, you'll notice if you're looking at the big scale across the flats or wherever you are,
Flats,
you'll
wherever.
actually see streaks or whatever. Like you'll see patterns of where. And you got to remember, every time you're going across there, that current may be blowing a certain way, and the wind is blowing a certain way, but you don't always take the same line depending on how it goes. So you're really kind of covering the whole area in almost a grid.
Yeah.
But you can zoom out and see a pattern across it.
Yeah.
And the same thing happens for bass when you come across into things like one of the areas we like to fish a lot at Malones tends to have largemouth bass, and it tends to have a 2-pound plus bite.
Yeah.
That's in that area. But you only know that from making those waymarks and consistently over time finding out that this rock slide area is better than these ones to the left or these ones to the right. So you can actually figure out where to hone in on those ones. Does not always work, obviously, but you at least know where to start, and it gives you a ballpark, and it's all working off your own data.
You got a couple comments down there.
Ditto here works. He's down south working ocean, calico bass, stuff like that. I think a lot of that for like the bay and that kind of stuff is bottom composition.
Yeah.
And it's hard. You can't really tell otherwise. I mean, when you're bouncing a ball down there, you can feel the composition.
Right.
But that's the difference between those. Marlon was at Clear Lake and stuck some 5s on the wood pilings near running pumps and the adjacent tulies.
So
Running pumps is a definitely like one of those great observations, but hard to duplicate.
Yes,
You'd have to know where the pumps are.
But if he's sticking 5s and he's able to say, hey, the pumps are running, right? It's wood and there's tulies. Those are very good features that he is keying in on. Those are some of those things that a lot of people don't key into, those small things. That is a great thing to talk about and to pay attention to, is where did you catch a fish and how did you catch a fish, right? These 3 things. I caught 5s there, right? Like,
there's a pro, I cannot remember who it was because it was a long time ago, that said keep a journal, basically. So if you get done fishing at the end of the day, write in your journal how you caught them, what the weather symptoms were, all this other stuff. So I was doing that on an Excel spreadsheet, and I actually ended up putting together things over the season that I didn't realize was even a pattern at all, just by going back and looking at it and be like, wait a minute, this was this. And the answer to that was the bite was shallower than I thought it was on a majority through winter. Enough where I was no longer scared to fish 5 foot of water when it's snowing outside.
yeah.
Or just snowed the day before. There's no reason, everyone tells you, oh, you gotta go deep and throw drop shot. He's throwing A-rig the day after it snows in 5 to 10 foot of water, catching damn near double everybody else's weight for the whole rest of the tournament. Like, the average bag was half of his weight. And not just because he wasn't afraid to run up shallow and not listen to the conventional stuff.
Or what your gut feeling was, right? Like,
Yeah.
it just snowed. We're on Berryessa. There's 3 fish on Berryessa, right? Your largemouth, smallmouth spots. Hey, I gotta go to the Narrows and catch fish because the largemouth are going to be shut down.
Yeah.
That was not a thing.
Yeah. And then that'll be another topic for another live. Will be different things of fishing on your gut and different all sorts of other stuff. There's kind of a lot, like the emotional side of fishing, or not emotional, but like mental side.
It's emotional.
Emotional also, but the emotional and mental side of fishing definitely plays a part. And you can beat yourself before you even make it on the water, and you can win it before you make it on the water. But we'll get into that another day.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
We definitely squirreled and ran around a little bit, but
definitely,
if you've made it this far,
yeah, definitely pay attention. If you guys have not looked at the Google Earth stuff, that is a huge thing to do. I know Tactical Bassin did a video on it, on how to do it, how to make the waypoints.
Fish the Moment did one. It was years ago though, but Fish the Moment did one, and then he even did how to put the waypoints into your graph at all your different versions of graph.
That's a huge thing to do. Like, for example, there was one where you did multiple spots on Don Pedro.
I did like 200 or 300 waypoints on Pedro.
Because it's such a big lake. Like, it breaks down, Don Pedro breaks into like 3 different bodies of water. Like, you have this body of water, you have the middle body of the water, and then you have the northern body of water.
And
right?
they all set up different, they all fish different.
And so
For the most
we
part.
made multiple waypoints in it. We went and checked multiple waypoints. The day before the tournament, he says, hey, all these waypoints we made.
Yeah. I pre-fished on Friday.
And I did
went
not.
into areas that should have been gold mined, and they sucked. Then went into other areas that did great. Then the tournament rolls around. I fished what did great on Friday, but it then now sucked, and didn't think about the fact of, hey, if these did suck, now they're great, now they're back to sucking, how about I go to the area that sucked? It's probably good again. Also was screwing around that tournament too.
Yeah.
That tournament didn't matter.
But in that, being able to have a spot to go double check or go check was the key for me winning that tournament.
Yeah, but that again was back to main lake area,
Yeah.
rock outcropping, like all that stuff where they say, oh, you need to go do this, go do that. You got deep water, you got rock, you got bait in the area. I mean, it had all the elements that a fish needs to live. It had shade, it had all that stuff. So when you're looking for spots to break down, try and hit the most obvious duh ones, even if you think 16 boats have fished it, because there's almost always fish on it year round.
And
Now, with obviously the exception of that, if everything's sitting on beds and you're out at the deepest point, most of the fish are going to be up in the shallows, but there still will be some fish out on that point. So not all of them move in, and definitely don't move all in at the same time.
correct.
So,
I agree with that. But definitely, I am not afraid to fish behind somebody.
no.
Because even fishing with James, as much as me and James fish together, we fish different.
Yeah.
I have a different style than he has. We fish the same, but we fish different.
Fish the same, we fish the same water, but different tactics. of
Different
that
ways of attacking it. So I'm not afraid to fish behind somebody, right? Depending on how they're fishing. If there's somebody just flipping down the bank, I'm all right going behind them and power fishing them. I'm all right with power fishing a drop shot. I will power fish a drop shot in a second at Clear Lake, right?
I can't actually think of the last time I drug a drop shot
No.
behind the boat.
No.
I bet you this little thing isn't in the water for longer than a minute,
No.
probably 2 minutes at most if I'm long soaking it, dead sticking it. And that's after I've already located fish and I know they're in the area and they're just sucking things off the bottom. Other than that, it's cast out, let it hit the bottom, maybe shake it, maybe not shake it depending on the day, reel it up, cast out, let it hit the bottom. I don't think I'm drop shotting where I'm dragging or that typical where you just kind of pick it up, drop it back down, pick it up, drop it back down. All that stuff.
Yeah.
So, I think that's pretty much it though.
Yeah.
There was more I was gonna say, but he's on scatterbrain and I can't keep them together anyway, so. Next week we'll do another live. I will have a video. I think I'm gonna have the Eastman Reservoir or the Eastman Lake or HV Eastman or something like that. I think I'm gonna have that come out on Monday, so stay tuned on Monday. It'll be an off time, but worst comes to worst, it comes out by Wednesday. Again, I'm not fishing this weekend, so we'll do a live on Wednesday. A week from today, and then I don't know where we're gonna go. It's right before the Delta tournament. I'm not spending 2 days on the Delta, so it'll be probably Berryessa, and I'll do a video on Berryessa. As much as I've been hiding what I've been doing on Berryessa, we've had 16-pound days, 17-pound days. We've had some good days screwing around, not even like digging hard at them.
Staying up, getting off of them.
Yeah.
Catching a couple and leaving.
You're like, okay, cool, this spot works, move on. Oh, there's your last tip. If you're trying to break down a lake and you find an area that you catch fish on, leave them.
Leave them alone.
I know it's hard, but if you found an area and bam, 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 I caught 5 bites. The bite window is open at that time. Leave those fish, go find a similar area and see if you can pick that up again. If you drain that all the way out till that bite window is closed, and then you move to another area and you're like, oh, this might not be a thing. What you're probably going to end up finding out is bite window's open, I'm catching them in 25 to 30 foot rock outcroppings. Let's move to another area. Oh, there's rock here, there's fish here, but they're not eating. Let's go to another one. Oh, look, rock, fish, now they're eating. Let's go to another one. Rock, fish, not eating. So you're able to take that bite that you just found that bite window, and you're able to spread it around the lake to other areas that you find. And now you know, next time this window opens at this spot, probably don't need to go here. I should try here first.
Yeah.
And that's how you maximize and get the most amount of bites. And then you can also break down a lake faster because you're
creating.
if you're using your Google map, what you pulled up on Google Map, you're able to use that and build it together. And then that's how you can get almost to the point where if you, like I did at Orville on day 1 on Friday, it didn't help me for the tournament, but on day 1 of Friday, I got to the point in the afternoon that I would drive down the lake and went, that looks pretty, and I already knew what Google Earth looked like. Pull in there, make 5-10 casts, catch 3 fish, and was like, cool. And it was one of those ones where it's too easy. There's no way it's not going to change for the tournament because I can call my shots. That'd be your other thing is, that's for tournaments though. That's back to mindset. But don't be afraid to leave fish. And then the other thing is,
especially pre-fishing,
go back at a different time of the day, 4 hours later, and see if those fish are still there.
Yeah.
If fish are still there, that tells you that they're not nomadic. If they're gone, it tells you they're nomadic. In other words, what I find today is jump tomorrow. Or it's a time of the day thing. It's not the magic spot.
And I'm going to tell you that pre-fishing or, for, say, a tournament or breaking down that lake, if I'm going to an area, even if just to find the fish and say we're fishing the tournament 2 weeks later, I'd rather know where they have been because they're only going to go 2 ways, right? They're either going to go deeper or they're going to go shallower. I'm going to find them in that area. They're going to be in that area somewhere. Where are they? But at least you know where they're at. You're not starting from scratch.
You know where they started from. It's like trying to, let's say, I told you, I dropped $1 million between LA and Sacramento. It's really hard to find a suitcase along all of Highway 5 or Interstate 5. But if I were to tell you that I dropped it at 10 and at 9 o'clock I was in Chowchilla, now you know it's either an hour this way or an hour that way, and it narrows down your search. And that's all you're doing in pre-fishing is you're narrowing down your search of where to start from. Is there someone where you can send pics? You can send pics to my Instagram, Straight Hook Fishing. On there, you can send pics to that. Hopefully they're good pics. No, I'm just kidding. Not the inappropriate ones. Unless it's the right. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, that's your last nugget. That little like kind of bonus thing that we will do that we notice that other people do not do, and that's leave biting fish.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you're complete fun fishing, you just keep pounding on them until they're done. If you're not worried about tournaments or not worried about breaking down the lake, definitely have some fun with that.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it for today.
Yeah, I think.
It's gonna be
You got another comment?
time for snackety snacks.
Well, I could have done a snicky snack a while ago.
Yours hasn't pulled up. Launching at the Delta is B&W.
Yeah.
And we
Most
get that-
most
and we-
every time.
We
I did
almost
just.
always get a hot dog at
Yeah.
B&W afterwards.
It's closer for us. That's typically where we do our tournaments out of. So if we're gonna pre-fish, that's typically where we're gonna go. I did just fish that Mike Vaughn Classic
Out of Lads.
out of Lads,
Or
which
whatever they call
is a
it.
good ramp, right? Like I actually enjoy the ramp. Like it is bigger than BMW, but it's just farther to drive.
Yeah.
And then we do go out of Russo's every once in a while, but we don't actually launch out of Russo's.
Yeah, well, no matter what, we launch at B&W. B&W and Lads are probably the only two ramp we go to, and 99% of the time it's B&W.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of the areas we go to in the Delta are within 20-minute drive of B&W
Yeah.
at 70 miles an hour, but 20-minute drive
65.
from
20,
B&W.
20 minutes you could be at Lads from BMW.
Yeah. So we're not going super far down south, and we're not going super far north.
I like my gas being in my tank.
Yeah, I like my wallet not
Yeah.
being completely empty by
The end of the day.
the end of the day. But yeah, that's pretty much it. If you have any other comments, questions, you can always hit me up down below or put them in the comments. After this video is running or any of that, you can always hit me up on Instagram. And again, Reapers Open Tournament, November 23rd at Puda Creek or Puda Resort or
Yeah.
whatever.
Puda
it is.
Canyon.
Puda Canyon. There you go. Puda Canyon. $150 all-in entry, 85% payback, and 100% payback for big fish. And then we're gonna have a raffle, so bring cash for raffle. That's pretty much it for the day. You got anything else?
No, that's about it.
Zoom in on our ugly mugs here.
Perfect.
All right, guys. Until next time on next Wednesday, I hope you get them.